So it's been a while since I've done a garden vlog, and that's partly because I have had my first and therefore worst outbreak of poison ivy. I don't know if you can see a little bit of it still, remnants of it still on my neck, all over the place. And found the poison ivy plants in the backyard. I've cordoned them off so the dogs can't get to them, and I have yet to be brave enough to go and dig them up. I refuse to use poisons because I don't want to have poisons in the ground, but I'm also terrified of getting another outbreak, so I'm going to wait till this outbreak goes away and then dig them up and put them in a plastic bag and put them in the garbage. Anyway, so we're well into the fall garden. The tomato plants are still producing well. I'll show you that in a minute. And, well, I guess I've plucked most of the ones that are growing, but you'll get a general idea. And I want to show you some other things that are growing, and then you know, time gets away from you, and I haven't had a chance yet to plant some of the fall crops that I wanted to. So I'm gonna try today. It's gorgeous. I think it's maybe in the 70s, and at night it's been in the 40s. It's just beautiful fall, late summer weather. I'm gonna plant radishes and the kale, and I'm gonna transplant the remains of the kohlrabi and the Brussels sprouts. I don't know if it's too late in the season for them, but they're already growing, so we'll try it out. Anyway, here's what I have to show you for the garden. So as you can see, the garden is still kind of wild. A few things I want to point out is, one, check it out up there. These are called Mexican sunflowers, and these are guys that volunteered. Last year I had a whole bed of Mexican sunflowers right there. I'll get closer so you can see them, but they're growing out the top behind the lima beans, and just such a pretty, nice thing to see from the window, and also just nice to have some flowers that are a fresh color, a nice orange color in the fall. My blackberries that we know, for those who aren't aware, I got 4 blackberry plants, or was it 3, this summer from my neighbors, and I put them, you can kind of see the pots there, I put them in little pots, and I'm going to plant them next year in my backyard, but I just didn't have time. But they're still producing some fruit. Let's see if the camera can find it. There we go. And I plucked a couple of dark ones yesterday from it, ate a few just right off, you can see where I picked it. I ate a few right off the vine, and it was just so neat to have blackberries. Oh, some that I dropped down there. So neat to have blackberries in garden. So this little potted tomato plant I grew out of seed from seed exchange from somebody who was supposed to give me yellow pear tomatoes, which the plant has not done well, but I think it is going to be a yellow. My finger keeps hitting the button that makes the video stop, so I'm starting that over again. I think it is going to be a yellow tomato, kind of an orangish color, because it's definitely not turning red. So I'm probably going to get 3 tomatoes out of this plant, but I'll be curious to see what it is. My eggplant plant is doing well. It was definitely unhappy yesterday, and you can see some yellowing because it got down to like 40 at night, and eggplants are 100% a summer heat plant. They're a Mediterranean plant, so they don't like the cold, but they're producing some just beautiful, beautiful plants. I have 3 in the house right now. I'm going to pluck these, and I'm going to make just myself a little baba ganoush type thing. My husband, as I said last video, doesn't like eggplants, so this is just for me. Alright, now to the tomato bed. You can see they're sort of dying back, but there are some tomatoes still growing, and we still have basil. The remaining tomatoes are doing pretty good. I have had a Mr. Worm get into some of them. This one I figured it could heal enough on its own, but I have had a worm get into some of them. And then my cherry tomato plant, even though it's got a lot of disease issues, it's still growing a lot of cherry tomatoes. I have probably a dozen indoors, which is just really neat. Another look at the pretty sunflower plants. I had a beautiful orb weaver in here. You could kind of see it in the last video, spider, and she has moved on, and I do not know where she is, so I've been quite careful when I reach my hands in. All right, going into my... Oh, I did forget one thing. Get out of the sun, out of the shade here. These are the cucumber plants I'm trying to grow. These are the little white cucumbers. If you watch the last video, you'll see the kind I'm growing. I think They're supposed to be miniature white. They're not supposed to be bitter. And I just would like, you know, I had such a bad year with cucumbers this year that I really just want a couple of cucumbers of my own. And I'm hoping, these guys have a 50-day maturation date, and they're probably 10 to 15 days, maybe a little more than that, into their having sprouted cycle. So we will see if they grow enough to get me. I really just like 3 cucumbers would make me happy. I just want some cucumbers of my own from my freaking garden. All right, going inside of the contained garden, if you recall, I put up this fence because of the deer. This tomato plant that had been a surprise tomato plant, but of course now we know what it is, Cherokee. It's doing pretty good. A little splitting because I haven't been watering things as much as I normally do, just because it's the fall, the pressure of the air pulling moisture and making the plants dry out is slower, so they can last a little longer, but then that also means I get more splitting because it just waits on the listen. So I don't know if I can give you a perspective. I'm going to back up as much as I can. I'm right at the edge of the flower bed. This is my lima bean plants. They have just 100% taken over they've taken over the tomato plants. Okay, there's a few choke plants I need to get out of there, but like, they've taken over the tomatoes even. Oh, I see a ripe tomato. Please don't be eaten. Let's see. Yes, you get to see my zebra tomatoes. Aren't they gorgeous? This one's probably the ripest I've ever picked. I usually pick them much earlier than this when they're just starting to show some yellow. So this is what they look like in their glory. Okay, there's a zebra tomato. So let me set that down real quick. Hopefully I don't forget it. Here are the lima beans, the Christmas lima beans, and there's pods everywhere. That one is definitely not mature, but there are just pods everywhere, and it's doing really, really well. Too well, in fact, I think, although I should never say anything's doing too well. My peppers, I just watched a video on how to overwinter peppers, and so I'm going to try doing that. You can basically cut all of it back down to the stems, but you can see it's still, this one is still, the Jimmy Nardello is still harvesting, still growing peppers, quite a few there. I've gotten a few, oh, see, got a little fish pepper, or no, that's going to be a jalapeno. Oh no, that's another Jimmy Nardello. So the peppers are doing well. They're kind of overshadowed by the tomatoes at this point and the lima beans, and I think, so one lesson learned, I think, for next year is I'm going to give the peppers more space and less chance of being overshaded, because they're just being overshadowed by the lima beans. I had no idea they would grow out this much. Yeah. As for one fall crop I'm very excited about, I planted this maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago. This, I totally forgot what it's called, but it is a type of squash or zucchini that is supposed to be pest resistant, and it has a relatively fast turnaround, I think 60 days, to be able to harvest things. And look guys, this is the very first flower of my brand new zucchini plant. I think this is one that is going to grow, this is one that's going to grow, oh, you know what this is? I pointed this out to you last time, you remember? This is wood sorrel. It's edible. And the way, again, you know that it's edible is it has this heart-shaped leaf. See that? Alright. So good. So I'm excited. I'm hoping that it'll start putting out more flowers. It's got more male flowers going at the moment. And I'm hoping to get, you know, a good handful. This is supposed to be a very prolific grower. So we're going to try that. The coxcomb are kind of near the end of their cycle. There's a nice big spider that's guarding this against a lot of pests. So I'm not picking it because I really just think they're beautiful. And I'm going to take you around to the front of the flower bed because I think it's just really neat to show you how much they've kind of carried out from the fence. Oh, there's one of those cabbage worms flies. All right. This is the view of, look at there's butterflies. You can see butterflies in the flowers. This is the view of the garden from the road. And these are, so I'm going to go through it real quick. These are globe amaranth, these purple and sort of lavender color things that the butterflies just love. These are, gosh, why am I forgetting what you're called? Zinnias? No. Why am I forgetting what they're called all of a sudden? Anyway, marigolds, there we go. that these are some that I had grown from seed. The dark orange ones, the little yellow ones are ones that are still growing strong from Home Depot. But the orange ones are ones that grew from seed, and they're just loving this cooler weather. Look how much they're blooming. Really, really stunning. And I'm really liking how the colors go from, this was totally not intentional, but we'll just say it was, go from kind of a purple and pink to like a white and deep red, and you have sort of the pink zinnias in the middle for the transition. Really pretty zinnias. Doing really well. And then, oh gosh, I didn't know I would love white zinnias so much, but I really do. I just think they're stunning. I didn't think I was a white flower person, but I'm finding out I am. I'm a white flower person. I really like white flowers, especially when you put them sort of in contrast with the coxcomb that's sort of fading out now. I've been gathering seeds from there, and then you have the pretty globe amaranth coming down. You just have this really nice white and like deep red composition of the colors. So the flowers are kind of doing what they want. Last time I did this video, I told you how I pulled out of a whole bunch of holy basil. Well, there's the whole other bush here. As you can see, it's coming, the fence is probably right out there, and the holy basil is like all the way out here. And then I'm going to try to get close enough for you to be able to see the Mexican sunflowers up close. So here goes. All right, there it is. Gorgeous Mexican sunflower. Just stunning. Just so pretty. Oh, such a pretty flower. Oh, so happy to have those growing. What a delightful surprise, really. Such a delightful surprise for me. All right, so I'm gonna give a quick tour of the backyard. Quick cameo of Lilu. Look at me. Look at me, puppy. Oh, you good girl. It's like a puppy. And then River, who's ready to go back inside. Yes, you were. Okay. And this is the kohlrabi, and oh, it's looking like they're fading a little bit. I need to give them water today. That's the Brussels sprouts, the purple Brussels sprouts, and the kohlrabi, which it looks like a pest has already sort of gotten to some of them. But I think I can plant at least one of them, maybe two, in the garden. Try to get them going for the fall. All right, and let's go check out what I have planted for the fall crops. This is the Paris Island lettuce, and you can see, yes, I've done my tomato again, which I just might as well have taken inside, but it's all right. You can see it's getting pretty big. It's supposed to be like a whole head of lettuce, so I haven't been harvesting the individual leaves, but honestly, if I don't see something forming soon, I just might. And then these are the arugula. I planted these, so 2 weeks ago. These are 2-week-old arugula plants here. They're doing pretty good. I could probably start harvesting baby greens out of them, but I might just give them a little bit longer. And I did this weird thing with the pipe. So we were having a ton of rain a couple weeks ago, and I dug a hole over here to let the water out, and then I put this little length of pipe here to let the kind of flooded water get down in there and have a way to get out. And it worked pretty well. You can kind of see the flow here where the grass is a little bit laid down more because of me doing that. The raspberries are struggling a little bit. I don't know if it's the cold temperatures or maybe they just weren't getting enough water, which is probably most likely it. They're doing all right though. And I haven't done anything new with the lima bean. Oh, with the dragon bush beans. And I harvested a whole bunch the other day, so I think they're at the end of their season. I tell you, the thing that has been most surprising for me this year, really, has been nasturtiums. How hardy they are. I planted them in like February or March out here, out in the cold, and they have lasted a transplant to this garden from another bed, and they're also going strong all the way through the summer and August, and we're now in mid-September, and they're just doing really well. In fact, they will vine. They'll take up the whole bed. This is one plant, or 2 plants. They'll take up the whole bed if you don't plant something else, and I have not done what I said that I would do, which was plant more beans here. So it's just taken over the whole bed, but it really is doing well. I forgot to mention in the front yard that I pulled up all the cleomes because I needed to make space for my fall crops. But this is the cleome that I planted around the same time in the front yard as back here, and it took until this fall to really get going. It was going maybe like August it was going, but it's beautiful. I mean, they're just, cleomes in the backyard are doing really well, and since they have more sort of space to move around, I think I'm going to make them a permanent fixture in the backyard and not the front yard, because the front yard is just too small of a space to fit something this monstrous. Beautifully monstrous, of course. So that's it for this. You see, you can still see some of the poison ivy here. A little bit on my chin. Anyway, that's it for the fall garden tour for mid-September. Or is it late? We're like on the 20th, so late September, I guess. And hopefully by the time I come back, I will have some radishes growing. But you know, overall the season's been pretty good. The summer season, I'm pretty happy with everything I've learned. I haven't had enough to do a whole lot of canning from my own produce. I've done some green bean canning, but otherwise I haven't. It's been mostly stuff I get at the farmer's market, which is a little bit of a disappointment. But you know, it's all a learning process, and I think next year I know that I want to grow maybe less varieties. No, I'm not good at growing less varieties. I'm going to grow a lot. Let's be honest. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to think about it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you aren't already a subscriber, please consider doing so. And otherwise, I'll see you next time, and keep on growing. It's just an amazing experience to have.